Good morning. Thank you for joining this talk. How many of you came here this morning wanting to answer this question? What makes your organization worthy of commitment? Okay, there's usually only 2 hands that go up, and they are my colleagues. That's normal. How many of you actually think that your own organization is truly worthy of your commitment? And that's why you're still there. At this point, definitely only my colleagues will raise their hands, okay? In recent times, we were very lucky, very blessed. We published a book, and our book has the same title, Worthy of Commitment. It has made it to #1 best-selling nonfiction on 4th April and continues to maintain its position in the top 10. This is not bragging. I was very surprised, honestly, but I noticed on the social medias that the pithy phrase worthy of commitment has become a little bit of a slogan, which is a little bit of a surprise. People are asking each other, is your organization worthy of commitment? How can we raise the waterline, raise the bar, so that we can do more for our employees? And that has been a question that we have been asked for the last 25 years. So Sequoia celebrated our 25th year on 27th March 2026, as this year. We launched the book on the same week, just as a way for us to have that sense of how is it that we can actually perhaps democratize our understanding that we have codified, working with over 250 organizations over the last 25 years, what we have learned. And yet you will find us, I'll just say it out now first, we are actually at a startup booth. I'll connect the dots for you. Why would a 25-year-old firm be at a startup booth? Explain a little bit more in a while. So that's our crew. This book, interestingly, tries to challenge one fundamental assumption. Most organizations we have encountered are perfectly designed. In fact, all organizations, I always say, are perfectly designed to get exactly the results that you expect, isn't it? So whether it's good results or poor results, our organizations are perfectly designed to create the results we are creating today. The biggest challenge is how do we, as Kurt Lewin said, decades ago, how do you unfreeze these systems and structures that have remained stuck for way too long? AI promises to unfreeze everything, but is that so? There is a lot of promise that it holds, but at the same time, the results so far are showing otherwise. So we're trying to unlock this key and say, what is underneath? What is underneath the barriers? What are the enablers barriers? And especially stumbling blocks that prevent us from succeeding in getting at this. Our startup booth answers exactly this question. How can we actually bridge this gap? It's based on living system principles. You will see that the first couple of chapters reads like a science book. As a matter of fact, a very good friend of mine, Tamansi, director of Science Center, bought quite a few copies of the book because she said there's so much relating to science and organizational life. So do pick it up if you are keen at our booth. Let me just put the definition directly in front of you first. When organizations are flourishing, you will see 3 apex met. How do you know when an organization is highly successful? Make no mistake, the top is about excellence. I'm here for excellence, so are you. We want our people to be practicing at the top of their grade, as the doctors would say. So we pursue organizational excellence. Whether you're a bank, your sports institute, your school, even a church or temple, you're seeking excellence, right? You're always in this relentless pursuit of being better. If technology helps you do that, by all means. But most organizations save as an afterthought. My speaker of 4 did a wonderful delivery. Organizational health is an inextricably linked component of performance. How many of you find it hard to go to work when you're not feeling well? Not sick enough to be on MC, but not well enough to concentrate. I don't know about you, but for sure at my stage of life, it's getting more and more real. I become a lot more choiceful and deliberate about where I expend my energy. So I look at my staff and said, with so much accumulated experience, I wish you could do more. But the question that I need to turn around is, am I taking good care of their well-being and their capacity to perform sustainably over time? And am I intelligent about how I help them do their work better? That really is the heart of it, right? So org health is more than engagement. It is about minimum politics, high quality of relationships, low conflict. That's what we're talking about. But you can't just have excellence and health, right? If your organization is not transforming and keeping up with times, then chances are you'll run out of steam. If your best idea is still being sold for the last 10 years, then, my friends, you are in high risk, because it's very likely that someone is already replacing it and probably is already eating your lunch. Organizational learning is the only insurance we have, regardless of whether it's AI or quantum computing that's coming on stream soon, when it becomes viable. You will reach that point where you realize it's not about chasing the next big thing. It is about, can your organization learn faster than the world is changing? Jack Welch had a beautiful saying, founder of General Electric, of course, chairman for many, not founder, founder is Thomas Edison, chairman of General Electric for many years. He said, if the rate of change outside is faster than the rate of change inside, your end is in sight. The end is in sight, right? It's always the case. So is your organization alive, curious, excited? If your employees are tired, chances are their eyes are not sparkling. Very difficult, right? It's like flogging a tired horse. That's not going to work. So you've got to have a strategy to activate all three. So we want to talk about flourishing at all three levels, total results. How do we go about it? Again, a challenge against the machine metaphor. I love machines. I think they're there for a reason. And they help us achieve what we call productivity, efficiency, up to a certain extent. So I want to talk about how do we approach working with organizations so that we expand the range. Now, when we go see a doctor, I'm using medical analogy a lot. I work a lot with doctors as well. We say that we get a good diagnosis so that we know our health situation, right? How many of you routinely do a health check? I think it's one of those healthy things to do, right? Age-appropriate health check. I just went to do a CT scan for my heart. Been feeling something, I said I better go check. Better, and the good news is I'm on low risk. Thank God, but apparently I cannot take my cholesterol for granted. Diagnosis tells you where you are, what you need to address as gaps. Very important. But I'm looking forward to the next step, which is having a conversation with my family physician. Because he's gonna take care of my health and my family's health and have a more in-depth conversation. He's a lovely doctor. So it happens to be a fortunate thing if you have a good relationship with your GP. Forge that, right? Because you don't feel that you're seeing a doctor, you're just meeting a friend. And a friend can have a good chat with you to help you discover, hey, Jack, what's going on? This, while good, you have other indexes that put you at high risk. I know he's going to go that way. Say, have you done your blood test? Are you exercising? That's going to be his next two questions, right? So it's not just having a diagnosis, but engage for discovery. Beyond just an intervention, which is the phrase we love to use, right, in management consultancy, how do I design intervention for you, is to move towards an invitation. But change doesn't happen through motivation alone. That's not sustainable. How do we turn on the switch for the individual to actually be activated towards true change that's self-driven? And instead of pure inspiration, is aspiration. So we call it the outside-in versus inside-out transformation approach. Once again, pick up the book if you're keen to find out more. I'll just touch on one more key concept on the book, which is our living OD cycle. That's my favorite phrase for it. It comprises 4 key elements: genesis, transformation, guidance, and evolution. You will see this repeated at our booth, but this time not as a theory. The key thing is, how do you turn theory into actionable insights? We are practitioners for the last 25 years. We work with real organizations with real challenges in transformation. We realize that they have gaps. The gaps come in the form of strategic planning and innovation sometimes. We are always on a startup, right? It doesn't matter how long your organization has been around. If you're continuing to be around, I bet you're in a startup mode. Founders will understand what I mean. I always feel like I'm in a startup, even after 25 years, because you're always planning for the future, but you're inventing for tomorrow. All the time, you have to be always looking relentlessly at pursuit of innovation. But the moment you launch a new product or innovation to try and catch up with the market, the speed to market is the big difference. And your competitor who's better at change management may have an inferior tool, but does a better job in getting stakeholder engagement. You are behind in the pack. It's always the human equation. Do you understand what moves people? What people really need to solve? So transformation is all about that, taking the idea into fruition. But if your leaders are not engaging, not nurturing, Then back to that old story of flogging a tired horse. You have no strategy for bringing out discretionary effort from your employees. And finally, evolution. I talk about this, the insurance to constantly evolving and changing as the world changes. So we talk about this as the regenerative cycle for growth. 4 stages, 8 capabilities. Now, before I talk about the tool, I'm going to introduce the tool to you, which I'm very excited about, honestly. Today's the debut. We have used this tool with several clients, but it's the first time we are going public with it. I think we're ready, based on our research and our findings. I want to pause for a second and lean in on talking about how do we actually create a more human future. I won't ask you to raise your hands because I've tried the last 2 times. They'll work extremely well. Maybe raise your hand in your own heart. How many of you actually don't think that AI will replace your jobs? You just answer it for yourself. How many of you think that AI or bots, agents may replace your job? Last question. How many of you are actually looking forward to AI replacing your job? Quite a few more. You should. My good friend Boon Kim, whom I had the privilege of meeting, is an AI expert, Nanogen. I love his phrase, right? I quoted him twice. He said, when I heard it, it really struck me. Bots won't replace you, but your colleague who knows how to use AI will replace you. If they are AI-enabled and they are humanistic combined. That means their EQ is extremely high and they're very tech-savvy. Likelihood, they are going to eat your lunch as well. Agree? So you've got to learn as much as you can, but please know what is irreducibly human. So we did some research, there are tons of data, one of which came out in 2023, Stanford Graduate School of Business. Beautiful research, very intriguing. Go find this gem. So what they did was a research to find out what are some attributes we share with bots. On your left-hand side, you will see things that we share with bots. Doing computation using language, implementing rules, so on and so forth. Detecting sounds using logic. Helpful? Very helpful. Right? We have a sight, sounds, analysis, logic. These things help us. But on the right are things that are distinctive to being irreducibly human. Mr. George Yeo recently gave a speech at Singapore General Hospital. I don't know how many of you watched this. And he said, even if bots, he says the danger of AI, he was talking about it and warning, kind of his sense, his reading as a futurist. And he said, yes, let's give this one analogy. A computer can play a piece of song, for example, Mozart, perfectly. Pitch perfect and get every note right, every movement perfectly delivered. But if you watch a 10-year-old kid who just learned Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, finally mastered it, and plays it, also by Mozart. By the way, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star is not a version you learn in nursery. It's a much more complex. You watch a 10-year-old playing that. I can imagine if it's the first time you're watching him or her perform, you will feel something that we call kama mutta, which is an emotion that gets moved. It's called a choke in your throat. Your eyes well up with tears. I doubt that will happen if you listen to an AI agent play a piece of music. Though you may say, wow, so good. But it's not the same. So, having an experience of awe, feeling love, taking responsibility for future generations, these are things that humans need to do. So, what makes us human? And if this is not enough to convince us, your relationships with other people matter. This comes down to one final piece of research, also by the Stanford Graduate School. In fact, this is the Stanford Social Innovation. Astonishing research. The relational capacity that we have is what we need to preserve. By all means, launch all tech, but don't kill relationships along the way. The quality of relationship that takes effort to build, the quality of care colleagues extend to each other, that's gold. Because that is what enables you to succeed in the future. Building relational infrastructure, it is not a soft aspiration. It is a hard requirement for all organizations if you still care about flourishing. Back to that, our OCTAVE tool embeds exactly that. The health of a system depends on the quality of relationship between the departments, between entities, and between the organization and its stakeholders. Irreducibly true. So good luck if you try to rubbish that, right? Tech is not going to save you in building relationships. So, good news is we need that. Let's get into the heart, right? So what's getting in the way? We want tech, We will stay humanistic. We've taken away the EQ message. We need to be relational. But let's try and unpack what actually is getting in the way of organizational flourishing. AI adoption is very high. This is the distribution map, AI adoption map, done by Microsoft's AI diffusion report. Annually, they generate this. Boon Kim probably has the 2026. I have the 2025 version that says Singapore is 61%. 61% of our working population is already using AI, artificial intelligence, and I can slice this room and say 61% of you. UAE is the only country with higher adoption than us. By right, we are ahead of the game, and the government should be happy until we look at the deeper dive of the stats. So this is the good news part. 61%, like we said, is adopting AI into the work practices. 88% of organizations use AI in at least one business function, marketing, HR, or whatever it might be. 92% of chief HR officers who are also participating in this summit anticipate AI will be further integrated in our workforce. Sounds good. But the returns are not as beautiful as we had hoped. 1 in 50, only 1 in 50 of these AI projects in organizations are delivering measurable, transformational value. Transformation means what? It gets you from point A to point B. That is actually working for your strategy. Strategy, go to market, launch a new product, whatever it is that you're trying to pursue. Only 1 in 50 is paying off. Now this data, 1 in 5 is actually giving any measurable return. Think about investment whereby only 1 in 5 of your stocks, your share, your investment portfolio is actually performing, right? The other 4 are not. And here's really the key point. 17% of HR professionals describe, only 17%, my friends. And does that include all of you? I hope you count yourself lucky, you say, yes, I'm one of the 17%. My AI project is actually launching and doing a very successful thing. Now, I happen to have the privilege of working with DKSH. I know one of my good friends, client friends is here. And astonishing in the ability to use Genie, their AI platform for global talent recruitment. If you want to find out about how they're doing it, do go and speak to Angeline, who's sitting right there. Not every organization pays such relentless attention. If I launch a system, I want to make sure I don't leave no stones unturned for ensuring that all managers and leaders are actually adopting it and actually know how to use it effectively, right? This is very important. So we see the barriers, lack of awareness of how AI is going to work. 67% say their organization has not been proactive in training employees. Capacity building and training is important. It's not the tech training, a lot of it is mindset and fear. We have to address mindset and fear. Only 1 in 4 HR professionals play a leading role. So who's playing the leading role? The vendors. No offense to all my friends here. But are you participating in a conversation to say, hey, this is what I want to do for my staff. This is what I want to do for employees, right? So you have a lot of tools that are selected by IT. Because we are afraid of the tech, so we tend to outsource. We outsource, okay, let the IT sort it out. But you cannot, you have to participate in the conversation. If you do, you let go of influence, right? There's a huge risk there, and not necessarily helping your employees, and not necessarily helping the HR business partners. I'll give you more stats in a while, the next chart. AI projects are abandoned because the underlying data needed to support that is not in place. Data management, data governance, data strategy is missing. Don't just look at the app. You got to look at the entire strategy that surrounds governance and your strategy for using information intelligently. If you don't have that, then you get overwhelmed very quickly. Let me speed past that. And of course, lots of employees are having ethical concerns and implications of AI in HR, something that you really need to look into deeply. Last and not least, this is the reason why I think it's still a huge issue. Jobs and workflows stay static even after tech has been launched. That means you didn't redesign your work, right? You just slap IT, just like in the past digitalization, you digitalize a outdated workflow. It's not going to help you either, right? So I'm going to land with a very crucial formula on change acceptance. It's called Q times A equals to E. And I did a cliffhanger on my LinkedIn post this morning. I said, there's one formula on change you have to memorize. Luckily, it's not a very complex one. Q just represents the quality of your technical solution. A is acceptance by people who have to implement the solution or receivers of it. E is the effectiveness of results. The key thing is this cross called times. Supposing 10 points is all you can get for Q. 10 times 10, you get 100 full marks. Most of the time, you don't get full marks, right, for your launch. But your technical solution is usually good enough. We call good enough, 7, 8 points. Nowadays, the kids will say 6, 7, but probably 7 or 8. Assuming it's an 8-pointer, 8, but acceptance by people, afterthought. So you get 8 times 2, 16. Your boss and your board will say fail, go back and redo. 9 out of 10 times, we redo what? Do you talk to your stakeholders and say, how come you don't like my product? What is it that we can do better? Or do you fire an engineer and replace the engineer and build a new one? No, you're on contract with them, so you cannot, right? You don't fire them. But we rework the queue, hoping that the technical fix will solve the human problem. Alas, you know that's not going to happen. Here comes the stats. What sets organizations who are successful in tech adoption from those who are not? You are 2.6 times more likely to succeed if you have change management practices in place. Firms that are successful in adopting AI invest 4 times more in change management, in the strategy to ensure that people are AI ready. Mindset. They don't underestimate the building of that readiness for change. It's still the same mantra. 4 times more likely to achieve change success when you continuously adapt your plans to the tech implementation. Don't say static. And don't outsource this and say, hey, IT, you'll sort it out. You've got to be involved in changing yourself as well as the technology is being assimilated and adopted. Finally, this is the key. 61% success rate where AI is treated as an org transformation rather than IT project. Finally, I'm delivering some good news. So there's good news here. It's possible to succeed when you know how to use IT, AI especially, for org transformation. In other words, what's the first question you must answer? What is your organization trying to do? What are you transforming into? Right? Alice in Wonderland met the Cheshire Cat. He says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. You must know what's the org transformation. Question 1. Question 2, then ask, which solution? What solution do we most need so that we can get there? And so what's the contrary? If you outsource to IT department, success rate is 18%. 61 versus 18. That's called a human gap. So how do you know whether your transformation and readiness gaps, where are they? I'm going to go straight with visit our booth. This is our debut, tada, OCTAVE. It has 8 dimensions. Any guesses for what those 8 are? Or did you already take a picture of it? Because flourishing organizations don't just happen by chance, they are composed. And it takes a great musician and a great orchestra to bring it alive. You want to find out what notes are missing? We said, come to our booth. No prizes for guessing. The OCTAVE comprises 8 elements, that's why it's OCTAVE. Plan, innovate, change, engage, lead, nurture, learn, sustain. When you do a staff engagement survey, which element is that? Come on. Only engage. Only engage. And you're wondering, how come year in year we keep doing, year in year out we keep doing staff engagement survey? Our org culture is not improving. Because you can't just measure bone density and expect to get great stamina or good heart, good circulation. Not possible. Come on. You can keep doing that and pray, but if your strategic planning is not working, your innovation processes are missing, you're not doing deliberate change management, nor are you embedding your leadership to drive transformation, you are in danger. Those of you who have been listening to my talk know where this came from. This is the research that informed OCTAVE. I won't go into the case study, come and visit us, but I described it as if you want your organization to flourish, you need these 8 capabilities. Right? I would love to hear your views on how you feel about that. So how do we work with you? If you don't have a shared language for where you're trying to go, very difficult. change is groping in the dark. So our OCTAVE tool reads the room by helping you trawl information on notes, on everything that's going on in your organization with your permission, so that we're able to assess through all this various input and data to form an intelligent picture of how you're doing on plan, change, lead, learn, the different 8 dimensions of health. For example, stakeholder engagement on your change. We can compile all your change projects that are going on and assess what is the quality of stakeholder acceptance around this change under our change tool. The key thing is, remember we said the discovery conversation. To close the gap, the conversation I'm looking forward to having with my family doctor on my health, and we turn insights into action, actionable insights, right? And finally, Sequoia is always aiming for this. Can your organization flourish? Not just use AI for its own sake. Our key transformation is all organizations can flourish. Just that no one has told you how to do it. All the experts are telling you piecemeal, they're not pulling it together into one holistic picture. Come visit our booth, as I wanted to say. Try this app and give us feedback. The whole point about being in a startup is that we want to hear your feedback. So do help us. And if you're a tech partner or you're a visitor from overseas, you're looking at a very similar product to assess OD, organization development, know that it's not just HR. To really look at organization development, come and have a chat with us. We are looking forward to international partners too. What will you get if you complete the survey? You'll get a profile like this. So you're required, after you scan the QR code, go in at your own time, complete the survey, you will get a health report. At least at a high level, just like my heart scan, tells me what's high, what's low. Doesn't give you details. That's why the doctor has to see me. This is where you actually use experts rather than being used by them. Use experts by driving the questions and conversation. Actual change profile, vision is very high, action is very low. Of course, there's some high, some low. But the key thing is you don't have infinite time. You want to target the areas that you need to drive up now. For this organization, I advise them pay attention to your stakeholder engagement. Don't focus so much on actions. A lot of action is embedded in how you engage stakeholders and what conversations you're going to have, right? That's the key. And OCTAVE will generate questions. So for this group of stakeholders, for example, you need to talk to private GPs. Here are the questions you can ask. But of course, bots can only give you the start. You have to audit, you have to prepare, you still have to do the face-to-face if you want to influence. Let me end here. I have taken more than my share of time. On behalf of Sequoia Group, I want to thank you for attending our Power Talk this morning, and let's flourish together. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Jacqueline. I really enjoyed this talk. I mean,